The civilian scout ship Kind Promise moved like a quiet lantern through the dark. On the bridge, Captain Mara Hale stood with her hands behind her back and looked at the large circle of light in the center console. That light was the truth ledger. It showed thin lines, dots, dates, and names from many worlds. The lines should have formed clean paths of help during the ceasefire. Instead, they tangled like weeds. A red dot pulsed where medicine had been marked as delivered to the frost world of Kithra. Another red dot pulsed near a singer named Vastran, a famous voice for unity. The ledger did not accuse. It only asked for clarity. That was why Mara had taken this job. Humanity had offered to help the Galactic Council find truth, not targets. She wanted to show a better way. Her crew moved softly like librarians in a quiet hall. Jiro, the linguist, sat at a console filled with glyphs from 100 tongues. He studied how a greeting might look like a legal mark if a translator guessed wrong. Dr. Sanaa, their ethicist, prepared calm spaces for hard words. She called them confession windows, but they were not traps. In those windows, anyone could speak without fear, if they agreed to help repair the harm. Tamsin, the systems engineer, wore a loose work shirt and a steady smile. She sent gentle trace beacons into the data streams, so they could follow changes without touching ships or homes. Each person had a job. Each job protected dignity. The ledger shows a signature on Kithra's relief logs, Jiro said, but the strokes match a cultural bow. You would write it on a festival card, not on a legal form. He turned and met Mara's eyes. Someone filed an entire convoy as delivered with a festival bow. Mara nodded once. We do not accuse, we ask. Plot a course to Kithra. The Kind Promise slid from drift to low orbit. Through the window, Kithra looked like a pearl left in ice water. Its cities were tight circles under domes, with little rivers of heat steam rising into the thin air. The Council had sent aid during the ceasefire. Heaters, medicine, protein, and tools to mend broken farms. The ledger said it had arrived and been signed for. The people said their shelves were still bare. Kithra welcomed them with quiet ceremony. Elders placed warm stones in the guests' hands to balance the cold. Mara kept her gloves off even when her fingers ached. It mattered to meet a place with honest skin. They drank brine tea, laid their hands near a slow flame, and listened while grandparents spoke about last winter and the winter before that. Sanaa matched each story with old radio pings, weather charts, and timestamps. Jiro listened to grammar, to gaps, to the way a word for gift shifted to promise paid later when elders spoke of the council. Tamsin adjusted her small devices but left them in public view so no one felt watched. Everyone who wanted to ask a question could ask. Everyone who wanted to see a screen could see. A child sat near the doorway, boots too big for her thin legs, eyes bright as snow under sun. When there was a pause, she tugged on Mara's sleeve. Captain, do you hear the singing satellite? It hums every 9th night. The room went still. The elders nodded slowly, as if this was a thing they had learned to live with. Tamsin looked up, caught Mara's small nod, and opened a screen. She listened to the sky. There it was, a soft, regular tone. Not a distress call. Not a beacon for ships. It was something else, too neat, too even. A dead drop repeater for altered logs. It sang at a rhythm that fit report cycles. May we map its path? Mara asked. Consent mattered. Kithra's elders agreed, but only if they could watch too. Tamsin smiled and made space at her console. The child stood on her toes to see the lines draw across the sky. The tone lined up with council report time, with donor check-ins, with relief confirmations. Every 9th night, some small piece of truth drifted sideways. Mara sent an open message to the sector, a calm invitation to help walk the data. We will not show private details. We will not name anyone without their consent. We will only check the path of the reports. If you have anything to add, please speak. The reply came back faster than she expected. Aid workers thanked them, but they were also afraid. Please do not scare donors, one wrote. If they see a scandal, they will stop giving. Mara read the message twice. She knew that fear. Honesty could look like risk when you had hungry people waiting. On the ledger, a pattern grew. The same festival bow signature appeared on 3 worlds. The same 9th night hum played above 5 others. The lines traced back to a curator's network, a group responsible for clean summaries and gentle public songs during the war. At the center of their network sat the name Vastran. He had sung to millions about peace, about the day when the stars would trade harvests instead of warnings. The ledger did not say he was guilty. It only said his name appeared again and again where aid turned into pretty numbers. Jiro's jaw tightened. Sana shut her eyes for a long breath. Tamsin tapped a rhythm on the console with 2 fingers, a habit she had when she was thinking hard. What if the clean song became a habit? Sana said softly. What if someone told a small, neat lie to keep donors calm when things were bad, and then never turned the lie off when things were better? We invite, Mara said. We do not accuse. She drafted a letter to Vastren. It had 3 parts: respect for his work, a clear list of data points, and an invitation to a context forum on Kithra where everyone could speak. The letter promised safety, a gentle structure, and the right to leave. It also promised sunlight. The forum would be recorded and shared with consent so nobody had to trust whispers. Some messages came back with anger. Stop reopening old pain, one said. We just learned to sleep. Mara read those too. Then she walked the corridors of the kind promise, hands in her pockets, thinking of the elder's cold fingers, the child's bright voice, the thin lines of the ledger. Truth was a warm stone, but it was also heavy. She thought of putting it down. Then she remembered the shelves that still stood empty on a world that had been promised plenty. She kept walking until her fear settled. When she came back to the bridge, her voice was steady. We hold the forum, she said. We make it kind. We make it safe. We make it clear. The dome they chose was not large. It smelled faintly of salt and hot metal. People came from different worlds by relay. Aid pilots, local growers, record keepers, teachers, even a few donors who wanted to learn. The elders welcomed everyone with warm stones and small bowls of soup. Sana explained the rules. Each speaker would have 3 turns. No one could be named without consent. A story would be anchored to the timestamp it referred to, not to a person's worth. The goal was understanding and repair, not shame. When Vastren arrived, the air changed. He wore simple clothes and a soft scarf as if to say he was just one of many. His voice matched the songs people knew, calm and careful. He thanked the elders for the warm stones. He thanked the crew for care and honesty. He said he was happy to help the truth shine. He handed over copies of every file the ledger had flagged, neat and complete like a clean stack of winter records. The room sighed with relief. Maybe this would end quickly. Maybe the ledger had simply caught old drafts and not final records. Jiro asked to read a line out loud in its original language and in 3 translations. He said he did this to check cadence. The word for delivered had a tone that rose at the end. In some dialects, it did that when the speaker asked a question. In a clean legal file, the tone would be flat. Jiro read the line 4 times, then he looked up. This line sings, he said almost to himself. It sings like a machine that learned to sound like a person. Tamsin lifted her head. A style mimic engine, she said. A generator that produces files that look like they came from different offices. You can give it a clean example, and it will fill the gaps for you. Vas did not flinch. He smiled at the idea. Our tools are clever, he said. But the files I brought are real. He touched the stack with the back of his hand, almost a blessing. Mara did not try to win the room. She did not try to corner Vas. She turned to the crowd instead. Would you walk with us as we trace a single report step by step? She asked. We will do it in the open. We will stop if anyone's private data is at risk. We will ask consent at each turn. And we will record the path so anyone can check our work later. We call this a truth walk. There was a murmur, then a nod from the elders. A donor raised a hand and said yes. An aid pilot said yes. A teacher said yes. Even Vas said yes with one condition. Show the shortages too, he said. Show the fear at the end of the war. Show the pressure to keep support coming. Mara met his eyes. Yes, she said. If we show one thread, we show the whole cloth. They began with the Kithra convoy. The first hop showed a crate list and a route time for a narrow window when storms eased. A grower described how that window felt, watching clouds as if they were a clock. A donor showed a note from a board asking for impact clarity before the next release of support. The pilot told how a relay tower lost power for half a day. Each piece was small. Together they formed a clear picture. When they reached the 9th night mark, Tamsin made a small movement with her hand and the singing tone became a line on the screen. As the clock ticked, the manifest changed. Delivered and signed, it now said, even as a second window showed a video from the same hour. The dock empty, the crates still stuck in a weatherlock 1,000 kilometers away. No one shouted. Sanaa had set the tone of the room at the start. Be. Morning on Kithra began as a pale gray glow behind the dome. Frost curled like lace on the outer shell. Inside, stoves hummed and the scent of soup drifted through the hall. People filed back into the forum space with warm stones in their hands. They looked tired but ready. Truth had made them tired. It had also made them brave. Captain Mara Hale felt that quiet courage like a steady wind at her back. She nodded to her crew and checked the plan one more time. Today would be a day of repair. Dr. Sana opened with a reminder in simple words. The goal was not shame. The goal was to fix what was broken and to make sure it stayed fixed. She laid out 3 paths on the screen. The first was the tool path. Teach the singing satellite to send corrections, not cover-ups. The second was the care path. Create community ledgers so every shortage was counted and returned in kind. The third was the trust path. Set rules for open reports so donors and worlds could see the same honest picture at the same time. Sanaa asked for consent at each step. She waited between sentences so people could breathe. Tamsin brought up a playback of the satellite's rhythm. The hum ran every 9th night. It was almost pretty. She showed the small rule that turned delivered by plan into delivered now. Then she showed a test patch. In the test, when crates were late, the hum changed to a soft 2-tone pulse. The first tone said, late by this many hours. The second said, new expected time. The tones were simple enough that anyone could learn them, even without a screen. A farmer on a ridge could hear them and plan chores. A dock team could hear them and call in extra hands when the real window opened. Tamsin looked up from the console. I will not swap this patch in without consent, she said. It is your sky. If you agree, we will do a trial. We will keep a copy of the old rule for record. Nothing will be hidden. The elders touched their warm stones and gave their yes. A donor raised a hand and gave yes. Aid workers gave yes. Then the room turned to Vastren. He stood with his scarf folded in his hands. He did not look away. He said yes. He also added a request. May I help write the first correction? He asked. I started the clean song. I would like to help begin the true one. The elders looked at Mara. Mara nodded once. Yes, she said. But your part will be seen in full view. They formed small circles to work. Jiro sat with teachers and elders to make a list of words that carried no sting across dialects. For late, some languages used a word that sounded like lazy. They did not want that. In one dialect, delay also meant waiting for a friend. That one felt gentle and right. They chose it. For promise, some languages had 2 forms, one for gifts and one for timely tools. They chose the tool form. It matched crates and heaters and seeds better than the gift form. Jiro wrote out the phrases in 12 scripts and tested how they sounded through a public speaker. The child from the day before listened with her eyes half closed and tapped her boot to the rhythm. When the tone matched the words, she smiled. It sounds like truth, she said. Truth has a small beat in it. Dr. Sana worked with pilots and donors to sketch the community ledgers. They did not want the ledgers to be heavy or hard. Each page would track a single shortage, the hours it lasted, who was touched by it, and the chosen way to repay. Repayments could be kind, not only literal. If medicine was late, the repayment might be extra clinic hours, new training for local nurses or spare power units for cold snaps. Each plan would be signed by 2 groups, the people who were shorted and the people who had steered the system that caused the short. No one would be forced to sign. If the 2 groups could not agree, a small circle would listen and suggest a bridge. Sana kept her language soft. She said, we will try more than she said we will force. You cannot force trust. You can only invite it and show up until it chooses to sit with you. Mara took a slow walk around the room as work rippled across tables. She stopped where Vass stood with Tamsin at a secondary console. His hand shook a little as he typed. He was not running the patch. He was writing a simple, clear note that the satellite would voice when the next correction tone played. He drafted the words 3 times. He deleted 2 drafts that sounded like speeches. The third was short. The old song kept the sky calm but small. The new song makes the sky honest and wide. We will show delays at once so plans can breathe. He looked to Tamsin. Is that plain enough? He asked. Tamsin read it and nodded. It is plain and kind, she said. Plain and kind is perfect. When the circles came back together, Jiro read the chosen phrases out loud in order. The room repeated each phrase once, then a second time. It felt like a small class. It felt like a family. Sana explained the ledger pages and steps and showed a sample with made-up data, so no one's real pain became a display object. Tamsin walked through the patch swap on a big screen. She pointed to every guard. If the patch failed, it would roll back. If a private note tried to leak, the consent beacon would block it. If a tone did not play clearly under bad weather, the system would auto-send a text record to public boards. She did not rush. She asked for questions after each piece and answered until faces looked calm. They chose a time to switch the song. Late afternoon, when children walked home and could hear the sky, and when docs were busy but not frantic. The elders lit a small lamp. Not a grand lamp, just a lamp like the ones in kitchens. Vass stood with them. He did not step forward to lead. He stood at their side. Mara waited until the lamp's glow was steady and then said, "We are ready if you are." The patch went in with a gentle click. For a breath, the room heard nothing. Then a soft two-tone pulse came through the speaker and slid through the dome like a ribbon. People froze for a second and then smiled, not because the tone was pretty, but because it did not pretend. A line of text scrolled under the tones. It showed a late crate list and a new window. It also showed a small, careful note. "We will bring extra med heaters tomorrow to repay the extra cold you held today." There was no applause. There was a long exhale. A dock worker near the door said, "Good. We will prep a second crew for the new window." A teacher said, "I will adjust class tomorrow so older students can help unload." A donor on a relay confirmed a budget shift to cover the extra heaters. Everything moved one small step at a time, the way real repair does. Now that the sky could tell the truth, the room turned to the ledgers. Sana invited 3 people to test the first page: an aid pilot who had flown in last year, a clinic manager who had rationed supplies, and Vass, who had approved the helper during the worst weeks and left it running through the quiet weeks. The 3 sat at one table with a copy of the sample page. They filled in a real case from the winter storm. It took time. They did not look up for a while. When they did, the page was simple and clear. Shortage antiviral pack A, hours short 36. Affected group North Clinic 2 villages. Repair plan, 2 extra shipments now. Nurse training class with hazard pay. Spare battery stacks for clinic. Satellite kiosk for real-time tone translation in the waiting room. The page had lines for 2 signatures. The clinic manager signed. The pilot signed. Vass lifted the pen last. He signed and his shoulders eased as if the weight had taken a small step off. More groups formed. More pages were filled. Not all were easy. One farmer asked for seeds that were out of season. A donor asked for a report that was too heavy for a small team. The small circle helped translate asks into possible steps. A farmer agreed to test a seed swap with a neighbor. The donor joined a standing call instead of asking for a special book. Every page found a shape. News of the new tone spread faster than anyone guessed. Other domes sent messages. Could they join the patch? Yes, said Tamsin, but each world would consent first. Could they copy the ledgers? Yes, said Sana, but each page would be theirs, not a form sent down from the sky. A quiet joy moved through the hall like a draft you only feel when you stop moving. People stood a little taller. They looked at one another, not at the floor. In the late light, the child climbed onto a stool by the public speaker. She asked if she could say something. The elders nodded. She held a small mic in both hands. "Thank you for the new song," she said. "Now when the sky sings, I can tell Mama if I should run to the dock today or study more and go tomorrow. I like to plan." The hall laughed, but in a soft, loving way. It felt like a blessing that came from a real life, not from a screen. Before they closed the forum, Mara asked Vass if he wanted to speak. He stepped forward only a little. He looked at the lamp, not at the crowd. "I am sorry," he said. He left it there. Not a speech, not a curl of words, just a small true line. Then he added one more line because repair needs edges. "I will help tend the chorus," he said, using the new name people had given the satellite network. "I will show my work in public. I will help repay the shortages I hid with neat lines." He placed his scarf on the table beside the ledgers like a quiet promise to stay. Night fell. The dome glowed like a pearl lantern in the dark. People left in 2s and 3s carrying warm stones in their pockets and the new tones in their heads. The crew of the Kind Promise walked back to their ship through snow so clean it squeaked. No one spoke at first. Then Jiro said, "Words are tools." Tamsin added. Tools are promises. Sana said, promises make rooms where people can breathe. Mara listened and